Hey guys, so I recently watched Spider-Man Far From Home and just wanted to give my thoughts on the film. I'm not a huge fan of reviews of people just awkwardly sitting in front of the camera and talking, or videos that just repeat the trailer footage over and over and over again. So, since I had these Detective Pikachu cards just laying around, I thought I'd open them up while talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. In future, I'll probably open up something related to the film I'm reviewing, but for now, we've got fucking Pokemon cards, alright? Please keep in mind, I've never done a film review before, and my opinion is meaningless. Also, spoilers for the whole review, I guess, even though everyone who wants to see it by now has already seen it. Alright, let's get this shit started. Okay, so overall I thought this was a pretty decent film that's a bit of fun. The acting is good, the special effects are decent, the cinematography is kind of garbage, and the music is a little bit bland. The jokes are on par with the first film. Not hilarious, but funny enough. The recurring Night Monkey gag was pretty great. I'm glad they kept Michael Giacchino on for the music, because I really enjoy his music, and the theme he created for this version of Spider-Man. I didn't really like this film as much as Homecoming, and I found myself kind of disappointed with it, especially after how much I enjoyed Homecoming and Spider-Man's appearances in Infinity War and Endgame. It's not bad or anything, it's just not particularly great or memorable. Like for real, I had trouble remembering massive chunks of this film while trying to write this review. Anyway, I guess I'll start with the opening scene with Fury and Maria Hill finding the first elemental. I thought that this scene seemed really clumsy and out of place, like it feels like a random scene just shoved into the front of the film. It actually kind of reminded me of that post-credits scene from the first Thor. It just doesn't really fit well as an opening scene, and it does a disservice to the next elemental scene with Hydro Man, which is actually executed really well. I think I would have preferred just cutting the opening scene and having Hydro Man be the first sighting of the elementals that we see in the film. It's especially odd because Fury literally explains what happens in the opening scene to Peter later on in the film, so cutting it out wouldn't have made much of a difference anyway. Moving on, I really liked the way this film looked at the aftermath of Avengers Endgame and how they managed to address a lot of the questions that the audience would have, but still managing to have a comedic tone. It doesn't dig too deep into the time jump or Thanos because I guess that would drag the film too much, but I was pretty happy with it. Also, props to the students of the high school that managed to acknowledge Vision in the In Memoriam segment, unlike Endgame where basically everyone besides for Wanda forgot that he also died. Although Vision's coming back anyway thanks to that WandaVision show that's coming to Disney+, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Also, another thing that kind of bothered me was Peter's sudden affection for MJ, and last time we saw Peter at school, he had a massive crush on Liz, but after she leaves school, it's only hinted that Peter might be into MJ. But because Infinity War supposedly takes place 2 years after Homecoming, we jump ahead to where he already has feelings for her and miss out on developing a relationship with her. The same sort of thing happens with Aunt May. Like every other Spider-Man film, Peter keeps his identity as Spider-Man a secret from Aunt May in Homecoming, and it ends with her finding out anyway. Again, this film doesn't tell us what happens after that reveal or how she dealt with it, just that she's apparently cool with it. Like, sure, you don't have to pick up on every story thread, but it seems weird to leave those behind. Also, there were some scenes in the trailer of Peter getting his passport and preparing for his trip that were cut. It was mainly for timing reasons, according to the director, John Watts. I know this happens a lot in films, but I really enjoyed those scenes in the trailer, and I thought that if they had kept them, it would have helped ease the audience into Peter going onto his trip a little bit better. Like, swap out that shit opening in Mexico and put in the cutscenes from the trailer of Peter trying to get his passport and preparing for his trip. Regardless, John Watts said that those scenes will be repurposed for a short film on the home video release, so it's not like we're not going to see them anyway. It's not a big deal, but I felt it was worth mentioning. Once they get to Europe, the film really picks up and gets a lot more fun, and the cast really gets a chance to shine. It's a shame they went to all this effort to film in all these different countries across Europe, but the framing for most of these shots are way too tight, and the color grading is that classic Marvel cement kind of look. Like, most of the scenes in Europe look like they could have been shot in any other country or at the studio on a soundstage with green screen. What's even weirder is that the Mysterio illusion scenes towards the end of the film look terrific, and could even give Doctor Strange a run for their money. So I don't understand why they put so much effort into the illusion scenes but couldn't make the actual shots that they shot in Europe look terrific. Speaking of Mysterio, Gyllenhaal is pretty terrific in this role. I didn't particularly care for his evil plan, and the exposition he delivers in the bar after getting Edith is clunky as fuck. Like, everyone in the room knows what happens and why it happened, but the audience doesn't know, so he has to recount everything. But I did find it really cool to see all the tie-ins to the original Iron Man and Civil War, even if this film basically uses the same plot structure as Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 again, with the whole Stark scorning a former employee and them seeking revenge. In contrast to Adrian Toomes from Homecoming, he was like a really compelling villain, and you could really understand where he was coming from and his point of view, and he also had a personal connection to Peter through Liz. I guess it's nice having a Spider-Man villain not directly tied to Spider-Man for once in film, but it kind of makes his involvement in the story make less sense. Like, it's ridiculous that Fury can't call any other heroes besides Peter, especially since he would have met most of them during or after Endgame. The film obviously knows this and has Peter ask about a few heroes like Thor and Captain Marvel, but his suggestions get shot down by Fury and Peter just kind of accepts it. But in reality, there are 20 plus heroes he could have tried to contact if he wanted to. This does get explained later in the post-credits scene, but the film kind of has to suffer a bit for it. Again, it's a minor nitpick, but I would have liked Peter having to team up with someone else from the wider MCU, like how Thor is with Hulk and Thor Ragnarok. At least that way Peter has someone to talk this stuff over with, since he doesn't have Karen anymore. Also, why isn't Karen in this film? She's not in his original suit, the Iron Spider suit, the stealth suit, or his final suit during this entire film. I really liked the dynamic they had in the first film, and Peter feeling so lost after Stark died, she would have been nice to have around as someone just to talk to. Anyway, the film ends with the typical CGI mishmash, which is perfectly fine. Although with the amount of drones firing at Spider-Man on the bridge, there's no way he doesn't get hit, especially since he's wearing a cloth-based suit. Like, why not use the Iron Spider suit, or the material that suit's made out of? Wouldn't having a metallic suit with instant kill be useful? Yeah, I know, they gotta sell those new toys, but still, it doesn't really make sense from a story perspective. Also, the scene where Spider-Man uses his Peter Tingle to get back Edith is pretty cool, but it also kind of doesn't make sense that a supposed genius like Mysterio wouldn't put a lock on Edith, or have isomorphic controls or something. Also, I felt JB Smoove was very underused. They wrote a role for him after how great he was in an Audi commercial with Tom Holland, like they had really good chemistry in it, but then when it came to the movie, they hardly give him any lines or chances to interact with Peter, making his inclusion kind of pointless. The film does end with probably one of the best mid-credits and post-credits scenes of any MCU film, and I'm really glad that they got J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson. Overall, I'd probably give this film a 6 out of 10. It's not the best MCU film ever, but it's not particularly bad either. It's just kind of in the middle for me. So that's my review for Spider-Man Far From Home. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.